There are a couple of rules when it comes to public speaking. One of them is make sure that you have a round of applause as soon as possible, so that's check. The second one is never tell a joke if you don't know the punchline. And I think I'm about to break this one. In the days of the Soviet Russia, if three people were standing one behind the other, that constituted a line, a queue, and people follow them. They had no idea what was at the front or what was being sold, but given that there were shortages of pretty much everything, they did not want to miss out. So the joke was, a man got into a line, asked what was at the front, nobody knew, and when he finally got at the end of the line, turns out they were selling, as I told you, I don't know the punchline. But here's the thing. These people in the line were what we could describe today as micro-influencers. They said nothing. They made no promises. They literally did not know why they were doing what they were doing. Yet, people followed them, and people trusted them. And that's what gave them influence over them. Of course, today, micro-influencers say a lot, make promises, know what they're talking about, but people still follow them for the same reason. They do not want to miss out. And this is what gives them influence over them. Which brings me to the story I wanted to share with you today. I recently left a job to launch my own company. I used to be a management consultant. You know the type, very structured, very analytical, black suits, white shirts. I was one of those countless clones of consultants roaming around. That all changed when I found myself eating a somewhat mediocre hot dog. Remember the Russian standing in line? Well, in the summer of 2016, I was in New York City to advise a company. And I remember on my way to my hotel, I saw a small hot dog joint named Crif Dogs. What really struck me was that the line in front of Crif Dogs was huge. What seemed like hundreds of people were waiting one behind the other to taste their hot dogs. When I looked around in the rest of the streets, there was no such line at other restaurants. People could have eaten at any other eateries with no problems. No, they wanted a Crif hot dog. My curiosity and taste bud were all sort of aroused, right? So I did not want to miss out. I waited in line and waited to taste one of their hot dogs. And it was mediocre, honestly. Not God's gifts to the culinary arts. And it was quite expensive, actually. So why were people standing in line to eat their hot dogs? Was mediocrity the gold standard for a New York hot dog? Why, I asked myself, was this small and insignificant hot dog joint so popular? Turns out, why Crif Dogs was so popular has nothing to do with how good their food is. You see, when you enter the restaurant, in one corner of it, off to the side, you will see an old-school phone booth. You know, the type of booth that you see in some of those 80s or 90s movies. Think Superman or Doctor Who, right? Well, if you happen to go inside that booth, pick up the phone and dial number 1, someone will be at the other end of the line and ask if you have any reservation. If you do, and I didn't, the back of the booth would open to a secret world. It's not a restaurant anymore, it's a bar. And the bar is called, of all things, Please Don't Tell. Mind you, there are no signs on the streets, no mention of the bar in the hot dog place, no websites. The owner, in fact, has never spent a dime on marketing. Yet, the bar is overbooked, and the hot dog place as well, with people frantically redialing the number trying to snag a spot at those bars. So why in a world overflowing with advertisement, was this bar and restaurant not only surviving, but thriving? Well, it's because the bar is a secret, and secrets are fun. Think back to the last secret someone told you about and asked you not to tell anyone. What was the first thing you did? Shame on all of you. Of course you told someone. The magic behind Please Don't Tell success actually lies in 3 simple words. Word of mouth. People's advice is the most powerful advertising tool. Why? Because trust is at its very core. Think back to the last restaurant someone told you about, or the last hot music track you just had to listen to. We give trust to people around us, and we trust the advice they give us. It doesn't matter if the hot dogs are not good. It's the experience that counts. You trust your friends when they tell you, go to Chris, you'll have fun. And you take that advice. You trust them. So what did we learn not to trust over the ages, I ask you? Advertisement. It doesn't matter how innovative or creative an ad is, how funny or thought-provoking you might find it, we won't believe in the bottom line of the ad, which is buying the service of product the company is trying to sell us with the ad. We won't believe it. An ad don't and cannot replicate the trust factor of a trusted source. In the end, we know that the company manufacturing the ad, selling the ad, if there is any actor in the ad playing in the ad, are all being paid. It's not real. It's not authentic. It's not credible. But word of mouth is on the other side. There are currently 3.3 billion people active on social media. It's almost half the planet. And among all these interconnections, we realize that not only word of mouth travels faster than ever before, but that some people are better at spreading the news than others. There are real people that actually influence the behavior of other people. And I'm not really talking about social media influencers here. I'm not talking about any professional YouTuber like we had some great speaker before. And don't worry, no picture of girls in bikini either, or no hairy armpits. Don't worry about that. I'm talking about a very different kind of people. I'm talking about your quirky relative that has an incredible sweet tooth and loves to tell you about the cakes they bake. I'm talking about your super outgoing coworker who knows every good place to go out to on a Saturday night. We all have one. I'm talking about your cousin who has a passion for video games and tell you about all the video game console to buy. People who have a passion and share that passion with their inner circle, and now including their social network. Those are people who are trusted for their opinion. People, strangers, actually believe what they have to say and trust the advice they give them. Those people, you can call them small-time bloggers, micro-influencers, or content creators, but they generally have a hyper-engaged and localized audience who listen to what they have to say. They share their lives with this audience, their joys, their tears, their struggles, their fears, everything. And they filter out nothing. You might sit in a cynical eye or say that this sort of connection is fake and superficial. But in this day and age, the kind of communication, our means of communication has evolved, and so does the kind of connection we have with people. Yes, there might be a screen in between them, but it doesn't mean that this sort of connection is any less real or any less genuine. And that's all that matters. Brands and companies have started to realize that. It is estimated that between 10 and 20% of the global advertising budget is now spent on social media influencers, with an ever-increasing focus on these influencers. Some watchmakers like Daniel Wellington or Paul Hewitt, you probably know of friends who bought one of these watches. they were actually entirely built thanks to this form of advertising. But what really makes these micro-influencers so special is how genuine they are. They don't expect large sum of money to be poured into their pocket to promote your product. Actually, they don't expect any kind of money if they actually like your product. What it means is that it now gives a fighting chance for smaller companies, smaller businesses to have access to an affordable form of advertising. Not only that, but that means a more ethical form of advertising. These are real endorsements made by real people. In the future, I believe that the power will continue shifting from big companies and big advertisers and communication agencies to small-time bloggers, small companies, and content creators. This revolution will spread way beyond the regular social media that we all know, like Instagram and YouTube. This will more and more be part of our everyday life. And we will soon live in a world where influence becomes a currency. That day, in the summer of 2016, when I was standing for what was about to be a very mediocre hot dog, I realized that. And I decided to trade the suits and the shirts for other shirts and sneakers and launch my own company and bring the power of word of mouth to everyone. And this is why I'm here today. Thank you for listening, and don't forget, tell your friends.